Hey guys, and welcome to the Lunge Lift podcast. Today I'm joined by a very special guest, Mr. Jenz Robinson. How are you doing?
I am all the better now that I get to spend the afternoon with you, my boy.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to hear. How have you been finding the whole COVID situation? Have you been able to navigate it well? You've been able to come out the other side?
Yeah, I have. COVID's taken its toll in many a life, and it's had its positives and its negatives. But for me, it's been largely positive. It was a shift in my state at the time that I kind of needed to have, and I needed to navigate slightly differently going forwards, and it's allowed me to try and take opportunities as they come, really.
Nice. So just to give our listeners a bit of a background into who you are and that people may not know you as, well, obviously as online, if anyone on Insta, Coach Jenz. Can you give us a bit of a background into kind of what kind of got you into coaching and kind of where you're at now and what you're currently doing? What's your speciality?
Cool. All right. Speciality, I have no idea what my speciality is. But yeah, how I got into coaching. Long story short, I've always been the kind of guy who would kind of just draw to helping people. One weird thing that I've really recognized with myself is I have an extremely good talent for seeing potential in people, whether it is just something very minuscule or something really powerful, but I'm able to see that in people. I came to the UK to play rugby. The rugby thing didn't work out. And I was like, how do I navigate forwards? I went into coaching at the rugby club that I was at. And a friend of mine was running the Scottish Rugby Union development program. And he got me onto various coaching programs and my level 1s and 2s and all this stuff. And I was finding my way in coaching. And then he put me through a strength conditioning course. And then I was like, oh shit, I love the gym. I love helping people. This is kind of probably something that I can go into. And then for me to get, so then I did a few online courses and what have you, but I couldn't get insurance to actually coach in the UK. And I was to PT. And I then jumped into doing a reps kind of qualification, whatever it was at the time, in order to gain insurance. And during that period, I met a guy who was a mentor of mine at the time, Aaron Small. I think he lives out in Dubai now. Incredibly good teacher. This guy he was amazing. And his words to me were Jenz, you're different to any other coach who's ever come through here. You need to be coaching in London. Scotland's too small for you. You need to come down to London. And I had just been given a new rugby contract, where they give you a flat and a car and it's quite cushiony, even though the rugby quality shit. But you just live your little life. And they said, I could use the rugby gym to PT out of. And then this guy was listen, I want you to start a business in London. And I remember phoning my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife and the mother of my children. And I phoned her. I was like, babe, I'm not coming back. I'm setting us up in London, and just give me a couple of weeks, and then you come down. And she was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
No. And my wife is the most supportive person in my life. She is my rock. And she was even like, babe, are you sure? London's a big place. I mean, we're South African, right? We were so broke back then. I can't even tell you. And she was like, we've got no money. How are you going to start a business? Are you stupid? And I was like, well, Aaron said I could, so I'm going to, right? And so basically I then got sold down the dream of the self-employed trainer, the LA Fitness back then. And the rent was 1,200 quid a month, bro.
Mm.
So now I remember I had no money, and I stayed in my grandmother's garden shed, right? Legit, garden shed. We insulated the inside, put a sleeper couch in there that could fold out, and I had a gas heater in the winter to try and keep me warm, And I cycled everywhere so I can get to and from to work, and I just started coaching. And the one thing, like I said, is I'm able to see potential in people. What I didn't have then was the skill to be able to connect the dots mentally, emotionally with people, to take what they value or what they hope to achieve, and get them in line, get their actions in line with what they value. And that's something that I've had to really develop over the last 10 years. And all these other skills of coaching, whether it's technical or being a technician or being able to like push people or things like that, I've really had to find myself. Like I definitely got influenced by the wrong people in the beginning. So I was trying to be too hard. I was fucking smashing people for just the sake of being the hardest trainer in the gym or whatever it was, right? But somewhere deep inside there was like a good few core values that was true, and stood true for the test of time so far. And it was just about kind of pursuing that. I get a lot of fulfillment from being able to help people reach that potential that they never thought they could, or they've tried many a time and failed, and I was like their last hope or what have you. And very early on, I went down the whole like sports therapy route and corrective exercise, because people are broken, right? Like people are just broken, and they're just presenting themselves with presenting to me like all these issues, and I focused on that for a large portion until I realized that like it's not necessarily us having to break down into like some kind of a physio type session, some kind of a rehab session, but it's such a big picture, and it only happens like you got to go through this rabbit hole. Like I think at stage 1 of being a coach, and I was definitely this guy. I was like, right, I'm this rugby guy, and I'm this like strong guy, and I'm going to absolutely smash everyone, and everyone's going to know that I'm the hardest trainer in the gym, whatever. And because I was just so naive, right? And then you go a little bit deeper, and then you're like, oh, I'm being presented with all these injuries, or all these kind of like, I don't want to use dysfunctions, but all these things that are occurring, that people are in pain. So I'm like, I want to be able to fix that. Then I'm like, oh, maybe I should just go and study to be a physio or an osteo. Then I can actually have the license to actually treat this. So then I'm like trying to think of going down that route. And then you go down the rabbit hole again, and you go, well, actually, hold on. It's only normal for a client to go to a physio, for a person to go to a physio like maybe once every 2 weeks to get rid of their symptoms, and then that's it. But a trainer, a good coach, has the ability to affect so many things, and it's normal to be like, I need to see you 3 times a week. So then I was like, okay, no, hold on, I can be a better coach. I just need to figure out how to help this person and that person, and you just keep going down this rabbit hole. And I guess, like, to answer your question about like specialists, like my specialism is not specializing. My specialism is just being able to continually dive deep into the rabbit hole. And there's so much more for me to learn. But what I love is the fulfillment I get from being able to like problem solve, like even if it's super narcissistic in that sort of point of view, but be able to have the solution to someone's problem. Like I love that.
Yeah, that's kind of like similar to myself, where it's something I got taught from the early days of being a PT, was being able to wear many hats and being able to not only you want to help so many different people and with all their different problems. So you go looking, oh, maybe I can do this or maybe I can do that. And then you kind of get taken away from your original, like what your mission is and what your purpose is. Like, cool, this is my values. This is what I want to work towards. This is who I am. And you can get blurred into other areas because you start to say over specialize or anything like, even though you're not, obviously, as you said, you're not a specialist necessarily in that way. But that's definitely something that I found, being able to wear many hats and addressing the person that's in front of you. And as I said, that problem solver thing, that's something that I've massively enjoyed myself as well over coaching for the years, is being able to try and the person that's in front of you and work out a way to kind of get to that person and get to know them. And it's just, and whoever it is, from a 25-year-old kid to say a 60-year-old woman, it's like, it could be a massive range, and it's such a fun challenge, I feel, over the years that you come across. So
agreed. Like my favorite part, I mean, there's many aspects of coaching I absolutely love, but one of my favorite things to do, and I actually pride myself in my ability to do this really well, is my assessment protocol is like through the roof, right? And and of course there's room to grow, but there's elements of being presented with a new human being, going through a face-to-face consult and asking whatever question I need to do, or I need to ask to be able to get to the level of depth required to actually have a real conversation, and then going onto the gym floor and just being like, right, let's see physically what your body's going to tell me. And I absolutely love that. Like, the buzz I get out of that is just so much fun. And I guess it's you use the words like core values there. Like, ultimately, there's always noise, right? There's noise from social media, from your peers, from your own mind as to what you believe is success. But I think when it comes to core values, it's just like, you need to be very clear on what that even is. Something that we do with our mentees, the coaches that we mentor, one of the first things we'll get you to do is, let's understand what your core values are. And the amount of people that will phone me after doing the exercises that we get them to do and be like, do you know what, coach? Like, I thought I knew what my core values were. And like, I thought I had them in my head, but writing them down, I realized like there was so much more. And I think that's the problem, is so many of us are so surface level that we stay in our head, that we don't even go down to putting pen to paper, like just a little bit of depth, like having an idea of your core values, but not just saying like, oh, my core values are integrity, hard work, work ethic, honesty. It's like, no, why? Like, tell me why. Like, and then when you give me one reason why, give me a reason why that's the reason why, And like, if you can say why 3 or 4 times, now we're having a conversation, And I think so. Bringing it back to the core values is like, as long as you can understand what are your rules of engagement, of how you're going to move forwards, then everything else, whether it's noise or not, you can kind of like deflect if it's needed to be deflected, or you can engage with if it's worth your time or worth your energy.
I guess that kind of goes nicely along the thing of as well, when you're presented with a client in front of you with a particular goal and they say, cool, I want this. And then when you start to really break it down and you understand the real why behind the why, and then it's like, okay, that's what it is. And then as you know, once you've got that why, that's the buy-in. That's the thing when someone, not even the buttons to press, but how to navigate their training, their nutrition, their everything about to help them get towards their goal, because it's not surface level anymore. And that's the thing. It's so many just like, cool, I want to look good for my wedding. All right, cool. Let's now break that down. And it is more than just, I want to look good for a wedding. Yes, that might be you want it. Who doesn't? But then, as I say, you break it down, you can really find the real meaning behind things.
Absolutely. I think if you think about it, most coaches struggle with the ability to get deep enough with their clients. And most potential clients will not trust their coach in session 1, right? So that skill is really important. But also, a lot of people, as we just talked about core values, a lot of people have no idea why they even sign up for a PT or sign up for any kind of thing like that, right? So if you look at CrossFit, why is there an element of CrossFit that does so well in terms of getting people to train regularly, eat better, move better? It's not like someone goes and says, oh, I need to lose weight, therefore I'm going to just go hire a PT or join a CrossFit gym, whatever. That's what people think. But then ultimately, the reason why it works so well with CrossFit is people, what they didn't realize is all they wanted was a different people, right? Like their community, their ecosystem, that saying, you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Yep. What they're not conscious of is the fact that environment is pulling them down. So when they join an environment, whether it is with a new coach and his little community that he's created, or what CrossFit did so well is join this CrossFit gym, and now everyone's like talking about go back to those paleo days where everyone was eating paleo, or the zone diet, whatever, right? And it's like, this is how this community does. And now because I'm in this tribe, I'm going to try and act according to this tribe. But because this is the vibe, now all of a sudden my health is better, everything's better. But if I told you all you were looking for was a better community, you would have said, no, my friends are fine. And that's what it is. And like with good coaches that have really good businesses, what they've done is they've been able to create a community around their little brand. And I say little because obviously we can have these huge communities, but even if it's just like, my 10 clients that work with me on a one-to-one basis, but they all know each other. There's all like a little bit of a vibe. Like if I were to post one of my clients on Instagram story, the 9 of them would reply and say, wow, you look so strong today. You look so good. Like there's just that bigging each other up. But it's because that's what's part of my community. That's what's part of the vibe. So it's almost like you forget how important it is to just bring people in to a place where they feel that they belong. And when they belong, then they'll trust you, they'll open up more, then you can have more depth, then you can have more meaning. More meaning means that everything else changes. The conversations change, the narratives change, the motivations change, to the point that now everything you're doing is just inspiring you to move forward. And that's where the best coaches do the best, or do well.
So I think that's a really nice thought, because where coaches have to start to learn essentially how to get into this, I guess that's what you're kind of doing with the PFCA, kind of showing the essentially, as you said, helping trainers and kind of discover their, as you say, their values and like kind of where they want to navigate and how to navigate through their journey. Because a lot of the time it's people become a trainer as a passion. They love to help people. A lot of the time they love the idea of it. Sometimes people get in it, I like to train, so I'm going to become a trainer, and then they don't normally last. But the ones that last, I guess what you're kind of doing with the PFCA is helping those not only last, but also then grow, thrive, and become better trainers. So can you just explain to the listeners kind of what you're doing with the PFCA and what it is?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks, bro. I think just in your explanation there's definitely a discussion about the kind of person that comes in the industry, because I mean we all know that dude, right? It's like, oh, bro, I love being in the gym. Oh, I look so good in this mirror. Oh, I can be in like the gym all day, train, and hopefully sleep with a few of my clients on the side. Sign me up. Like, how much is the course? Online? I'm in. Do you know what I mean? Like, those guys, COVID smashed them out of the park. Yep. You and I had this discussion in the beginning. Unless they're really good in bed and like they were able to do it on the side. But those kinds of trainers are gone. And I use this analogy early on in lockdown. I was like, the trainers who are nice to have, they're gone, right? The trainers that are need to have, they're doing better than ever, because those are the coaches that are not just a luxury in our clients' lives. It is like a necessity. It is the whether it's the outlet or the resource or the rejuvenation for our clients to be able to achieve other things in their lives. Like that's what it's done, right? So I think it's quite interesting when you talk about like the beginning stage of a lot of trainers is like, let's just very, very, very clearly define what your motives are for actually coming to the industry. And I guess to then go back to your question about the PFCA. So at this point, we've got a few things. So we've got like the level 3 course, which we've just launched, and that's amazing because what we're trying to do is we're trying to make better coaches on the gym floor that can actually connect with their clients and get them to move better and understand basic, like we're going to use the word functional training, whatever that means, but just understanding basic movement patterns, how to tailor it to an individual, how to make sure you don't do any harm, and how to try and encourage a long-term approach to health and fitness, right? So that's like the level 3, and our cohort that we have now is incredible. We then have the FFC, the Functional Fitness Coach, which is getting released soon. And that's like the next logical step in any trainer's journey to now truly understand what it is to assess a human being, their movement, being able to connect on a behavioral change point of view, what is the principles behind behavioral change, then go into like expert program design, which is assessment led, so everything's tailored, long-term kind of progression, sustainable approaches, developing strength, being able to like understand progressions and regressions, as per what the human body in front of you is presenting itself. So it's really cool. And that, we believe, is really going to like just change. Well, our mission is to redefine the standards of coaching. This 100% will be able to do that, because the whole industry is just a little bit messed right now, right?
Yeah.
and then our like mentorship is like a membership level where you get access to myself and Ollie, but more importantly, you get access to a people, like we alluded to a few minutes ago. And our community is full of some amazing coaches that, whether they're just starting out or they've been in the game for several years, there's this an incredible community that we're starting to grow there, which is phenomenal. And as you say, as we spoke about earlier, it's like our first thing is just really kind of connecting with you, the human being, because that's what a lot of coaches neglect. They neglect themselves. They neglect their own mental fitness. Do you know what I mean? Like their own mindfulness practices, they neglect. Their ability to remove themselves as the athlete and be a coach, they neglect that. They look at training as like they have to do it, like, and they burn themselves out and all these things. So it's like, let's look after you first, the individual. Then let's connect with your coach's why, which is one of the most important things. But there's certain things we need to go through for you to even ask the right questions, right? And then find the answers to it. Mm. Then we go through your operating principles or your core values, which is like hands down most important. And then we go something that we've tailored, which is incredible, is this business health check. And it's a super in-depth form, which helps us determine across 4 of our key pillars of our business, which is the pillar of self, so you, the individual, the pillar of your business, so understanding like your business, where you're at, how well do you understand your market, your everything like that. Then it's like training, right? So how well educated are you as a coach, which is a very important aspect of being a good coach. I think some are either overqualified and don't know how to connect to a client, and some have no idea to even teach a squat, right? And that's the sad truth. And then the final one is lifestyle, right? And being able to understand that every coach today needs to be the PT, the trainer, the coach, the mindset coach, the strength coach, the movement coach, and the lifestyle coach. That final one is probably the most important, right? And being able to get people to understand how we can integrate this fitness thing into everything outside of the gym, then we're on a good wicket.
Yeah, that's definitely something where I know with like my own personal clients and stuff like that, where they've come back to me and they're talking about when they were out, and they said they just had me in their head, and that's where you've got that buy-in from that client, and they're thinking about what would I say, so then they respect their trainer, because then you're becoming more than just the trainer, the coach. You are the person that is guiding them and helping them with the changes. You're not just getting them from A to B, you're showing them how to get there. You're making sure that they can then sustain it, and that it's the journey. And that really is, I think that's we say it a lot. You see it a lot on social media, and that's how it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And no matter how cringy that is now, it really is so true. And once you kind of get away from the destination mindset and go into that journey mindset, you realize that it's so much more fun and so much more fulfilling, because that's, even for something like myself, when I come from a bodybuilding background and say powerlifting, and I got into CrossFit, was because I realized there were so many avenues I could go into, and I started to understand that I'm not say just going to be the strongest. I can now be this, I can this and this. I had so many avenues to start to go into, and that was where, and the community side of things. When you said about that earlier on, that hit home with me, because I remember my journey into CrossFit and like the why behind that. And I think that's when it comes to like the lifestyle side of things. I think, as you say, a lot of trainers now are really going in on that lifestyle side of things, because and the importance of it, because at the end of the day, when you're with a client, you're with them maybe a couple of times a week. There's so many hours outside of that day that you need to be able to hopefully help that client, because it should be more than just that 1 hour. But then you also need to, I guess, understand the balance between your job and then what you can actually say and so forth. And I guess that's pretty important.
Yeah, I think you use the word journey, right? And ultimately, like, our job as coaches isn't to control the whole situation. It's not to dictate. It is to be able to be like the Sherpa or the guide for them to navigate life themselves, right? But for so many people, the stigma or their belief or their worldview about being able to truly connect the dots with what's going on in their head means that they won't actually go and seek professional help outside of just their coach, right? But their coach might be their confidant, their counsel, because there's no judgment. It's private. There's no one else knows them. And for that, it puts us in a very unique situation to be able to encourage better behaviors, not tell them that there's something wrong with them or put them, make them identify themselves as if something was wrong, but more so just be like, hey, I noticed that you're really stressed out. You mentioned that you're feeling really anxious. You know what really helps is try this or try that. I found it helps me or one of my clients who has it. Do you know what I mean? So that's our ability to try and help them navigate. But just to come back on that word journey, and I mean, that's something that like the FFC course is literally built around, as like empowering coaches to understand how to be a journey-centric coach, how to be a client-centric coach, how to be a process-driven coach, whatever that is. And I think the biggest bullshit that coaches say today is hands down when a coach just says to a client, just trust the process. Just trust the process. That is the biggest load of bullshit ever. Yes, you need to trust the process, but a coach's ability to showcase what this process looks like is coaching.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So like what we talk about a lot is your ability to reverse engineer. And this is something like I'm very weird in my head, but if you can think about like a chalkboard and like every angle and like, I mean, you're an engineer, right? So all these little things in the background. Now, when I get a client and I'm start having this conversation with them, I'm trying to understand their goals, their drives, their motivations, their worldview, the narrative around nutrition, around health, around relationships, all these things are coming to my head. These are all plugging into the algorithm. Then I'm like trying to understand their goals and everything. And now that's starting to build higher and higher up this tree. But as it's going, I'm seeing every brick that goes into this building of their goals, every single minute, like little brick. And I can literally see it in my like mind's eye as they're talking. And then I go, right, Rob, so your goal was you wanted to get to here. Now let's draw this on a tree. And what I'll do, like, is I'll, on my notepad while going through this consult, I'll draw a little tree and I'll be like, right, this is where everyone talks about the low-hanging fruit. Let's talk about the top-hanging fruit, right? So we'll draw this little fruit at the top and it'll be like, right, Rob's goal is X. And then I'll say, okay, I'm going to now populate this with a whole bunch of fruits, right? So let's say I'll just put like 20 different fruits there on this tree and I'll just describe to you how, okay, we need this, we need that, we need that. And we start to bring it further and further down to the low-hanging fruits. And as you know, those low-hanging fruits are the things that are going to set our clients up for a win. They are achievable, but they also make them slightly uncomfortable because we need to change the state, right? And that's all we do. And then we've now visually drawn this incredible process, this roadmap of success that we go, okay, look, we're on a huge road trip here, okay? And it's going to be fun. We're going to have a few moments on this road trip where we're going to be able to stop and look at the view. A few moments where we're going to need a petrol stop and a little bit of a recovery. But we want to enjoy the road trip the whole way through. It's not us just getting to this freaking place. Because if it's a long, like hypothetically, let's call it a drive from here to Italy, you're not going to just head down drive all the way there. There's so many beautiful spots you want to make along the way. And if you're not acknowledging each win on that journey, taking it in, being present, then all you're doing is you're sucking the life out of this thing. And when you get to reach the goal, it means nothing. And if you're the coach and constantly reminding them of the end goal, the outcome, then that's the reason why you're losing clients or not seeing people happy and actually improving. So trust the process is a thing. It's very much a thing. Trust the journey, for lack of a better phrase. But it only works if you, the coach, are able to truly connect the dots between the goal, the little fruit, and the client, and make sure that it's relatable each time. So each session, every session should have minimum 5 wins, right? That 5 wins could include something like, you turned up. Guess what? You turned up today, right? Now you turned up, and guess what? You slept 8 hours the night before. So now you turned up, and you're on your readiness scale, you're already higher, which is so much better than when we first met and your sleep was up to shit, right? Then we might have learned something new, or held the dead bug for longer, or managed to focus on your breathing better. There's another one, right? All these things. And now when you think about all these wins and you start accumulating it, it is now in line with the new identity in which you hope to achieve. But now, because it's a little fruit, you're starting to get all these wins, and therefore we're starting to see success. And no one wants to play a game you're constantly failing at.
Mate, that's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. That's the whole that I feel that, especially with like what you and Ollie are doing with the PFCA, and like what you're setting the standards. Because for me, who come in with a level 3, it was very bodybuilding focused, very much just, it's all about the way you look. Because even though, and it was crap, the level 3 was just a thing just to get your foot in the door. But like when I now think back about what it was telling you, the goal was cool. Okay, you had, your chest on this, your back on that. It was such basic stuff. There was no talk about lifestyle. There's no talk about just actual functionality. Obviously, over the years, functional training has got more prolific, essentially, because we've realized, okay, it's more than just doing. Don't get me wrong, a bicep curl is great. I love a bicep curl, but it's you understand that there's more to training than just a bicep curl.
Not for you.
For me, I do love a bicep and some cycling. So, but for me, it's from when I think back to the level 3, and I now look at all the holes that there was in the level 3, and I guess that's where you and Ollie are now plugging all those holes and up in the game, because that's where I think as the new trainers are coming in, and trainers that are looking to develop themselves with the FFC stuff, I think that's really, because people want to just be better. They want to feel better. They want to be able to move better. They just want to live a better life. They might have an external goal to look a certain way, but when we break, as we discussed there, but as we break it down, there's a lot more. I actually want to feel better about my day-to-day life, and that's where sometimes people don't want to actually say that. They just want to give the external goal of, I want to look like X, or I want to lose X amount of weight, but it's breaking that right down.
Yeah. Question for you, Rob.
Yes.
What does functional training even mean?
Functional training is a very individual thing, because it depends on what your function is. So if, for instance, it depends on the person in front of me as well. But for me, my functional training is to be able to pretty much do anything I want to do. So my function is to be prepared pretty much for, I like the GPP thing, general prepared, physical preparedness, being able to do anything at any time. That's always something I've been quite proud that I've been able to do. So as long as I maintain a level of fitness and functionality that I can do whatever, whenever, that's great. Whereas I might have a client who I know, like say, for instance, Sue, who listens to this podcast, she just wants to move better and feel better. And, she hasn't gotten us. She might want to lose a little bit of weight here and there, but she enjoys the progression of getting stronger and just feeling better and being able to just go for her runs and so forth day to day. So her functionality is making sure that she can go out the door, go for her run and feel good. So functional training is just this obviously overview term, but it's about the individual when you break it down. So functional training is different for everyone.
Beautiful. It's something that Ollie and I are working really hard to try and come up with a definition. And I mean, your definition there was beautiful. It's something that we have no idea how to just try and simplify in 1 or 2 words or a little sentence, but it is 100% individual. It needs to transcend out of the gym, and it needs to be sustainable. Like that's what it needs to be.
Yeah, you have to want to do it. You have to want to be able. Is that same thing with training? I guess you have to want to train, because there's so many distractions in life that are going to take you away from training, but you always have to want to come back. Otherwise, it's not. So like with someone like yourself, so being a dad of 2, obviously training, and you're a busy businessman, obviously you're a coach, you're doing multiple things. How have you found like trying to navigate your own training? Have you been able to, has that passion stayed there throughout when the times have got tough with the kids or business? Like, what have you found some of the struggles that you've come across?
You know what? It's such a good question, and I think if there's one thing that I struggle with is like overcompensating when I've missed a session or when I haven't had the time or what have you. So like I'll be very compassionate with myself if I should have trained or I could have trained, and there was an opportunity to be a dad and be present in that moment, and being so busy, I'd much rather take that moment, right? And it's special, but then there's equally something lingering in the back of my mind, like, hey, bro, you missed that session, bro. and then what I'll do is I'll either overcompensate with going too hard or whatever. And something that I'm working really hard at personally is just trying to build a life that allows me to run all my businesses well, do them very well, be present as a dad, be present as a husband, a lover, a friend, and then be able to train because I enjoy it and because it's part of what I enjoy. Like I enjoy the some people are against this, but I enjoy the expression of what I'm capable of, right? As an expression. But then when I'm ready and when the environment suits, I also love the ability to challenge what I'm capable of. But I think the dose between the two is something I'm trying to get a really good understanding of, and I'm constantly trying to work on that. But equally, recently, I've been able to cultivate a better environment for myself. So now having my training buddy Louis, even though it's a few days a week, it's not every day, but it just means that the environment allows this to happen. Whereas it's easy for things to come up. It's easy to change your priorities, right? But I guess, and it's a preface that we need to try and remind ourselves with, is like, you don't have to train ever. You don't have to train. Like, you get to fucking train, right? It's a fucking privilege. And it's something that like I need to remind myself, because sometimes I look at like, that like rent is due or pay the man or whatever. Yeah. And like some days that is exactly what I need to hear, right? 100%. But some days I'm like, no, it is a fucking I should go in there and be like, I get to do this shit, because so many people can't, right? Yeah. And it just comes down to like your system, right? So some days if you allow your system to break down, then it means that breakdown causes a frustration, and that frustration means that you didn't allow yourself the opportunity to do so. Right. So yes, we need to be adaptable. We need to be compassionate if we were to so-called miss a session, but equally we've got to set ourselves up for wins. And this is where I feel like being a dad is really important. So my wife is incredible, and I would not achieve or have achieved anything that I have done without her. But like prime example, 2 nights ago, I said to my wife, Joelsie, I was like, Joels, I just need to just jump on the bike, please. Like, can I just have 40 minutes? And she was like, cool. So it was meant to be like my time with the kids, but I had a long day, I hadn't trained, and I just wanted to go and move. So I jumped on the bike erg and just knocked out like a cheeky 20K, and it just ticked the box what I needed. I went on with no intention to kill a time. I went on for no reason other than like, I need to move. I want to move, and I want to feel my heart rate going. And you know what? I'm going to listen to a really cool podcast while I do so. And then after like 5 minutes, my blood was pumping. I was feeling amazing. And then I just kind of went after it in like this is such a great opportunity. Like, let me just go for it. And it was epic. Like, it was so cool. And I think as a dad, it's just, Ollie and I have had a good discussion about this particular word yesterday, and it's like choice, right? You have a choice, and the moment you allow yourself not to choose, that's when you use the word I have. So if you choose to be with the kids rather than train, then fucking own it, because it's amazing. If you choose to miss training today and just spend some time with the family or just have some chill time for yourself, then enjoy it. If you choose to train, then enjoy it. And if it's the day that you want to push yourself to the limit, enjoy it. But you chose to do that. And I think that's the biggest thing, is like just remembering that we get to choose what we're doing, rather than just like we're like something that I from time to time struggle with is like I'm just handling fires and handling shit thrown at me. Like I'm handling this business, I'm handling this client, I'm handling this solution. I've got to get this bit of content out. I've got to then handle being a dad, or handle putting the kid to bed. And like that's not right. Like I need to lean into it and chase all these areas, whether it's an area of discomfort or not.
Yeah, that, as you were saying it was just making me think about that in my own life. But it's that where you might as well just, it's the all or nothing thing. You might as well go balls deep, go straight in and do that task, rather than having your toes in the water. So like we said, owning your training. So say, for instance, you choose to train over spending some time with your kid, then cool, own your training, make sure it's worth missing time with your kid. That's the thing. You don't, if you just, and then you have a really shitty session and because you haven't put that effort in. So then you've not won in either aspect. So both things have then lost out, and then you feel even worse because then you haven't got that balance. And it massively comes into mindset, and like obviously your thought. And I mean, when it comes to mindset and stuff, you're someone that's massively impacted myself, and like just how you that growth mindset and that. And when we've spoke about things like that, it's like, have you felt any of that come from like your competitive rugby back in the day? Have you felt that you've grown with that, or is that something that you've really learned in like what, as you've been developing as a coach? Like how have you feel the mindset stuff has really taken on for yourself?
That's a great question, Brew. I think okay, so my family has always been like very sporty. Both my sisters have played, like represented at national level in a few different sports, and ultimately, like there's just like a sense of like drive, right? My parents, their work ethic's really high, so work ethic is very much just part of who I am. I remember as a kid, I'd watch those sporting dramas and I would cry, like I'd have like tears of like fucking joy because I was just like so excited, right? Whether it's Coach Carter, Remember the Titans, like, dude, I'm ready to go. Like We Are Marshall, Facing the Giants is probably one of the most special movies ever, right? And there's moments in those things that I really resonate with that story, and I just want to be able to push into that like limit and like really find it. And it's crazy. However, and this is what's so funny, is like that strength or that ability to connect to that is also my biggest weakness. So I have many memories of thrashing myself as a young teenager because I needed to be fitter or stronger than anyone else. And I would push beyond a sustainable level, and then I'd have days off after training because I can't sustain it. And then I'd do it time and time again. And that overcompensation is probably one of my strengths when needed. I can go into a very dark place, but it's also a weakness because it takes away from just being able to be consistent. So like all or nothing is one of those things where some people, they need to be all or nothing in that moment, 100%. But I think ultimately, when you look at it from a sustainable point of view, it's like, let's choose something that we can do day in, day out consistently. And it depends on your archetype. For me personally, I needed to find a level of like elegant consistency rather than like high highs and high lows. All or nothing good, all or nothing really bad. Like diet's really good. It's amazing for like a week. And it's like Ben and Jerry's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You know?
I know those feels.
Yeah. But, you know, that, and then like for me, like mindset, like schoolboy rugby in South Africa is extremely, you know, very competitive, and everything I lived and breathed was around that, and was super driven, focused on it. But it was also part of the culture. Like culture dictates everything, right? Yeah. So the culture was really big for that anyway. And then I've always just made sure that, like, from a work ethic point of view, that I can go balls to the wall, and like very few people can match me on that, and I'll pride myself on that. But it's equally my weakness because it takes away from my ability to sustain and be able to. So I have the high highs and the low lows kind of thing. So my mindset practices over like recently has basically just taught me how to recognize the difference between the two and be more present in that mindset. And there are times like Matt Connolly, who I worked with over lockdown, he said that we need to have berserker mode. And every now and then I need to go full on like chimp. Do you know what I mean? Like this ginger silverback needs to go hard, and I need to feel the taste of blood in my mouth, or be able to taste the blood in my mouth and all that kind of stuff. I need that. But equally, I need to know that's not sustainable. That's not necessary. And that's not the measure of a successful workout. And that's quite big for me. That's quite hard.
Yeah, that's so on that. How do you think you're going to guide your kids with that? Because obviously that's, as you say, that now you've identified such a, you've had from your family, from your sisters, and like from you've seen the flaws, you've seen the positives. How are you going to try to influence your two kids to give them and guide them? Because it's such a good, like as you say, it's a great trait to have, but then it does have those flaws. So what would you change, or what would you say to your kids to try and guide them into a bit of a better direction?
That's such a I love that as a question. That's so challenging. And I often think about it a lot in terms of like my ability to just teach the right lessons. And like, because there's a saying like, you shouldn't have kids until you fix yourself. Do you know what I mean? And I'm definitely not a fixed person, right, at all. I'm on my journey and I'm trying to improve, and I don't think I'll ever be fixed. It's such a stupid saying. However, it's important not to just like project your failures onto them. So my wife and I have one very important rule with our kids, and I think you and I resonate with this. I think we spoke about it before. So with Hunter, who's now 3 and a bit, and Ruby's now 1 and a bit, anytime they fall or had fallen, our words are, "It's okay to just get back up. It's okay, just get back up." Right? Yeah. We say that every time. And it's the other phrase that we use is "try again."
Yep.
And that's it. Like Hunter fell off his bicycle on a hill like during lockdown in the park, and like he wiped out hard. And I went to him. I said, "Hunter, are you okay?" And he says, "Yes, Daddy." "Hunter, try again. Hunter, do it properly." And I was like, "That's my boy.
That's my boy." Yeah.
And like, if there's one narrative, I don't want to project onto my kids to have to be a pro sportsman or have to do anything. I just want them to have the belief in themselves that they can try something and they can fucking fail. Like, I want my kids to fail time and time again, but be able to pick themselves back up. And if there's one thing that's so important, it's just resilience. Resilience on the fact that life is shit and you're going to get beaten up, but you can go again. You can try again. There's something you've learned from that lesson that you can now navigate and do better. And that's like, you used that word earlier, like people just want better. That's all we need to do is like, "Hey, Hunter, that's okay. Let's do better next time." That's it. And I think and that then resonates with the mindset that I need adult Jenz to talk to child Jenz inside.
Yeah.
It's like, "Hey, bro, you're doing great, man. Let's just do a little bit better." That's it. And like, I can 100% say I'm doing better today than I did a year ago, than I did 3 years ago, than I did 5 years ago. And I have no idea where I'm going to be in 5 years' time. And I can't believe how much I've achieved up until this point in my life. But I know that as long as I find a little bit better, just a little bit better, and I just try again, I'm on a good trajectory, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, I think I'm of the same mindset as well with Chloe, and it's like, for me, I try to let, within reason obviously, but try to let Chloe do pretty much whatever she wants, so she can discover, so she can find out what's good. I try not to influence her too much, because what I've noticed myself is just how much she picks up from me without even realizing, how much she picks up from Hannah without realizing. Like, she said, I was having dinner the other day, and I said to her, "Oh, would you like it?" She goes, "Of course." And it's just how I say it. It's just, and that's just a word that she's saying. But so it's little things that I'm talking to Hannah and I say, oh yeah, of course. I'm just like agreeing. She's heard that, she's picked up. And if she's picking up a word like that, and because of lockdown, that's why I've been extremely grateful for lockdown, because Chloe's her development has just massively like increased because she's got two adults around her. Don't get me wrong, me and Hannah talk like go no tomorrow. So it's the amount that she's heard us talking in I say an adult manner, but you know, husband and wife talking to each other. But it's like, so she's heard that so much that she's now, okay, cool, this is how to act. And it's what I love is when I see Chloe like come into the gym, like, down to the shed, and just like pick something up, or not be afraid to try and pick something up. And it's that's the thing of like, when she gets older, I hope that she trains, because training has so many positive things, not to necessarily look a certain way or anything like that, but for the so many positive impacts that it has on your life. And I would never want to force her to train. So but the fact that she sees Hannah and myself training day in and day out when we do, it's going to have hopefully it's going to have such a positive impact that if she decides to train or whatever she chooses to do, that she can see that consistency, and they're the lessons that she takes, not the lifting the weight. It's that consistency of they go down to the shed, they train, we get to see her. And for me, that's the impact that I want to try and have on Chloe. And I think that's obviously similar with yourself. That's from how it seems.
Yeah, I think exactly. You use the word consistency there. That's the one, right? Like, mom and dad are consistent. Mom and dad have a work ethic. Mom and dad have a daily pursuit toward what they're trying to achieve. Like, bro, that's the narrative, right? And I guess it's really important to choose our words very carefully when it comes to our kids, I think. And you know, like, if I think about education and the education in the UK and where I want my son to end up, and I'm like, fuck, I think I want to homeschool him. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You know, like, I reckon I could, yeah, like, I'd rather he go to primary school, learn how to read and write, and high school, like, you get a laugh, but I'd rather go live in the woods and teach him how to survive, and then give him a few other added things about life, than just go and be stressed out about A levels and have to do homework for hours on end. But that's a conversation for another day. Like, I'm still trying to work out my own concept on that. But it's really important that we don't try and fix ourselves in our children. Yeah, I think that's one thing that I'm very conscious of. And just let them fall. Like, I think that's the best thing. Like, Hunter's just learned how to ride a pedal bike, right? No stabilizers, just gone from balance bike to pedal bike.
Amazing.
And he took to it like this. And I'm running after him. It's the most, like, nerve-wracking run, bro. You're running after him, right behind the bike, ready for him to fall. But equally, he's not afraid to fall. Just let him fall.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's it's like, it's really special. I mean, parenting is hard, and it has its challenges, and 2 is definitely not twice as hard as 1. It's 4 times as hard as 1. Hands down. But it's just beautiful, and it makes you as a human being, like, it makes you really, like, you can resonate. I don't know, I think you can resonate with this. Like, there are days when I'm not the dad I wanted to be. Like, I lost my cool, I might have screamed at Hunter, or whatever, and then, like, I'll sit there at the end of the night and we've said good night and put him to bed, and I'll go, just wasn't good enough, Jenz. Like, you did not, like he needed you at that moment, and you had lost enough, like, patience or energy or whatever it was, and you lost just a little bit of yourself. And, like, as much as there's neglect and, like, regret in that moment, there's also a lesson. And it's just like, just how, like, I want my kids to fail. I failed there too, and I need to do better the next day. And that's what parenting does. It makes it extremely real, like, very real, every day.
Oh, it really is. And I think it's funny because when we first had, well, I say when we had Chloe, when Chloe had Chloe, but we had Chloe, I remember listening to a book. What was it? It's like The Book You Wish Your Parents Listened to. And it was such a powerful book for me, because more the thing of just, like, thinking about it from, like, the kids aspect, is in, like, if you're in the park with the kid and you say, right, you want to go because it's, say, cold or something, and they're running around, and just saying that, then they cry and stuff, and then you get annoyed, and it's this thing that starts evolving. And then what was said in the book was like, how about say to the kid, cool, we're going to leave in 5 minutes. So then they're already prepared, and then when it comes to 5 minutes, you take them, then you come to that agreement like, look, we're leaving now. And that's it just made me think of that thing where you said if you raised your voice or something like that to Hunter, that in a way where you was just like, I probably shouldn't have done that. Whenever that happens to me, it's just that thing of, it is that realization, cool, okay, you learn from it. And as long as you take it as a lesson, that is key.
Yeah. And I guess this is where a lot of adults in today's society lack the ability to be present in the moment to recognize that stuff. And I'm the same. Like, there's the things that I lack being present of is with nutrition, right? Like I will look at nutrition as, fuck, I need fuel right now because I'm hungry. But being able to actually stop, be grateful for the food that's in front of you, be present, and like that's just a very, very simple layman's way of describing like the ability to be present.
Yeah.
But it's the same with like these things are just happening, right? Like we're just fucking handling this thing and this thing and this thing and not actually just going, whoa, there's a lesson here, there's a pattern here. Like the same thing happened yesterday. Like, why are we doing it? Why are we having the exact same discussion? Is it because I didn't pre-frame to my kid that we're leaving in 5 minutes? Well, that's so you're absolutely right there, bro. Absolutely right. I love that.
Yeah, it's definitely a book worth listening to, even beyond like the thing of your parenting, is in like just the thought processes of, as because obviously with clients it's going to be the same sort of thing. And this is the thing, it's like no matter whether you're kids, whether you're a fully grown adult and stuff like that, how you portray yourself to someone else and the words that you use and how you say them can dictate everything. And it also like how the person responds, how they feel, and that's the thing. And it's, as you said, that being present in who you are in that moment and what you're saying, and are you just being reactive, or are you actually thinking it and being a bit more proactive with the words that you're saying? So it's a beautiful thing being a parent, and it's nice how this fitness podcast has gone on to a bit of parenting stuff, but I love it. I absolutely love it, because and the reality is that's life. Fitness should be part of it.
Yeah, correct. Like we said, right? Like all this shit needs to transcend outside of the few hours a week in a gym or your few hours a week of actually dedicated fitness. Like if it means that we have better mental fitness to be a better human, better capacity to have more patience because you're not so tired so early and now you're a better parent. Like that's what functional training is, I guess.
Beautiful. That's a nice way to finish the podcast, mate. I just want to thank you so much for coming on today. It's been a lovely chat as always. Have you got anything you'd like to tell our listeners, anywhere where they can find you, anything that you want to plug?
Firstly, thank you, man. It's been a great conversation, and when you and I do speak, it does go on for hours. So it was very good. And I guess, so I'm Coach Jenz on social media. Just look for a big, ginger bearded, silverback looking dude. And then the PFCA on Instagram as well is for coaches, coach development, business mentorship, that kind of stuff. And bro, just a word to say, like I said it to your face earlier and I'll say it again, like, it's really cool to see your growth and where you're going and where you've come from. And I just respect everything you're doing. And just, as I said earlier, like just keep it simple and just keep it you. And as long as you can do that, like you keep doing what you're doing, because it looks really good, bro. I'm really happy for you.
Appreciate that. Appreciate the words. But apart from that, thank you very much for coming on. And also thank you for listening to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it and you managed to take some bits away. Really appreciate your time as always. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, all the good stuff. But apart from that, thanks a lot. And I'll catch you guys next week.